is a grid pattern. And you can have it in, doesn't have to be what would you say in terms of a grid? The grid doesn't have to be all the same size, because I think you can kind of do it in a grid that's even got a diagonal line going off it. With this pattern, it doesn't have to be a square grid, so you could maybe have it even in a kind of zigzaggy grid. I'm just going to do that just so I can demonstrate both ways for you. Is the view okay? If it just give me a thumbs up, is everything okay? You can say, oh, perfect, okay. So this pattern is called a radial, like a radial tower, but it's a radial. And you can do it in any direction. So if I was starting on this line here, because basically the pattern itself starts on a line, and you have a little dot on the top and a little dot on the bottom. And then the dot on the top basically has like a sunburst coming off it, like this. And you just go round, and obviously as you come round, you're gonna get shorter and shorter to come back on yourself. And then if I flip round, and on where I've put the other dot, you do the same thing. You start and you'll go out, and you'll do your little sunburst. Oops, missed one. And you'll come out, and then as you come around, you'll obviously get shorter. So it kind of builds up this pattern. So if you imagine that in a grid pattern then, so if we were putting it in this style, you would have your dot at the top and the bottom. So just to show you how it can work in a weird space. And then on this one, we'd be going, and I should actually be bumping into the wall, sorry, because we've got our cube. I will actually touch the outside of my cube, and then come round, oops, and it'll get shorter and shorter as it comes round, like that. And then on this side, obviously I've got to fit in this space. So again, I'm going to start, and I'm going to have my pattern, but it's just going to bump into that weird shaped little box that we've created. But just carry it on as you would normally, just coming around, getting shorter and shorter. And then, so even though it's a strange shape, you can still fit this pattern within an odd shape. It's not an issue. And even looking at this, I could have actually started my pattern on this line, and I could have radiated off from here and gone in my little strange space and done it, and then flipped over. I'll just do a weird line just so that you can see how it's going to build up in an unusual space. And then it's just going to radiate out from there, and then come round on itself. Okay, and then it's so, and then your shading is basically in this sort of central bit. So we can do some shading in the sort of two halves basically, and radiate out from there. And as I say, just as long as you always leave some white, sorry, this paper I'm using is just scrap, so it's not the best for getting the blend in, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's a radial, and it can be a standalone pattern as well without the grid. You can just have it anywhere. I mean, you could have it in the corner of your, if I just drew a tile border around that, it can just be a little standalone pattern, just to show you it doesn't have to be within a grid. So it would just start with a line and two dots, and you would build up on that. So that's a radial, that's one of our patterns. Then there's a few non-grid and a few griddy patterns. So if I come over here, the next one that was quite interesting, and basically it starts as a kind of wiggly line, and then you kind of have another wiggly line kind of intersecting that, like that. And then you kind of just aura that sort of wiggly line, like that, and then aura it on the other side. Okay, so you end up with this kind of very weird bendy. And this one's called In a Pod. It's all one word, but it's called In a Pod. And what you do is then you do some little circles or little kind of oval shapes in here. So it's kind of like, you can see why it's called In a Pod. But it just kind of starts as a, and you don't have to have, you know, little ones, big ones, small ones, thin ones, because you're going to colour in. Any of the blank space gets coloured in the actual pod bit. So this gets coloured in. So you're kind of filling that space, just colouring that. So that kind of just started as a squiggle basically, and you've built up a pattern already. So, and then with your shading for that, it would either be, you could just have the edges, you know, one of the edges kind of shaded to make it pop off the page for you. So you could have it kind of like that, where you've got it sort of, I'll just hold it a little bit closer so you've got some depth to it. So it's kind of giving it contrast so that it kind of looks like there's sort of shading underneath it. So that's an interesting one, that's In a Pod. And there was a little sort of cheeky one that I thought was quite nice, which is called India, but it's actually Indi and NA, so India, like that. And it basically starts with a little whirligig, and then it comes around like a heart, and then you have another little whirly sort of comes off, and you have another little whirligig here, like that. And then you just kind of come out of your little whirl and come down to kind of this, and it doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be a, so just kind of building on shape. And then on this side you're going to come, and you could actually have another little line here even if you wanted. You could have another one coming down like that. There's no, as there's always no rules. And then you're going to have on this side, the lines are actually going to come this way. So you're going to come out and then just have lines coming that way, like that. So that's just a little pretty. And obviously you can do that really small. You could have a little tiny one, so you could have a little tiny one like that, and then just have it coming out, and then have your lines coming the other way. So you could imagine you could have like a, very small ones of these just in corners and things, or obviously in a full pattern as well. So that was India. Now this other one I really liked. This one is called In Aura. So am I going too quick? I'm on a fast motion ride today. Is everybody all right? Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm just sort of conscious that maybe I'm on a roll here, and I'm just going for it, and I'm conscious now that you're all supposed to be trying to do these things as well. So in Aura, I really like how this builds up. So you start with a square, and then you can have a small circle, and a large circle, and then another square, I mean, this is just me. You can obviously start with any of these shapes. And then you build up from that. So then I could say, okay, I'm going to have a square that's going to come out of here, go down there, and imagine that that's going to come out and go up like that. And then I could think, okay, well, I'm going to have a circle that's going to come here and round like that. And then from here, I could have another circle, sorry, square coming out of this, coming down like this. And you basically build up as much or as little as you want. So again, I could have another square coming out and joining up here. And then you want to do little auras within your shape. So I'm going to have an aura building up in this one. Oops, sorry, I'm not concentrating. And then an aura in my circle. And then an aura. And auras and circles are tricky because obviously I shouldn't really say circle. I should just say a round shape. Because as soon as you say circle, then you suddenly think it's got to be perfect. But maybe if I just said round shape, it would be better. And then obviously these ones are going to have their little auras building up around from them, just imagining where they're going to go. And again in this one, so that just builds up, and you end up obviously with a huge, this could go on and on. You could start a tile with just doing this aura idea, and imagine how at the end you could have just all these different shapes that have built up. I think it'd be a really interesting pattern just to have as a standalone on its own on a grid. So you can kind of see. So then with your shading for this one, obviously you're going to want to be kind of shading like underneath so that you get some kind of depth to it, a bit like when you do your hollybah. So you could actually give that again, like we've just done on the inner pod, by giving it depth around it. You're kind of giving it more, it's going to pull you in, and you're going to think, oh wow, that's really going, you know, far down. Each of those shapes are going further and further in, if you know what I mean. So you'd probably want to do a little bit of shading around that one. So just to make it pop off the page. And obviously all of these are going to have their little auras. So they are. Okay, and they're obviously going to just build up and up. And you'll have to, you know, imagine where they're going to be going. So I kind of really like that one, because I could imagine just on half of a tile, if you started this, it could really build up. And that was called In Aura. So quite nice. And something I don't sort of haven't shown you really many of is this little border one, which is quite cute. So it starts with lines. Okay. And then you just do a little whirligig. So I don't know what you call these kind of little sort of twists. I'm just sort of call them whirligigs because so you kind of get a little it's kind of regal, isn't it, when you kind of look at that and you sort of think, you know, imagine seeing this on a building somewhere, couldn't you, like little frescoes or something on a building. Okay, so it's kind of like that, and that is it as a border. So you could go all the way around your tile with that, but some variations to show you. So if you had your little lines, some variations of that one would be to have a little heart in between, maybe. Okay, so you could just have them going along, and then you'd have a little heart between each one. Another way of giving variation is to sort of draw a pattern within them. So you would just have some lines, or you might have a line, then more of a solid line, and then another line. So I think with this pattern, the world's your oyster, because you could just decorate. So I could have a line, and then I could just have some lines coming down. So just think of all the different variations that you could do with that. And that one's called Ionic. border. Ionic border. I like that one. Just thought it would be quite interesting to have that going around a tile. And then I'm going to flip over because I need a space now. So this one is called ing. So you start with a zigzag coming down, like that. And then from this top line, we're going to go to halfway mark. Okay, so from this corner here, we're going to the halfway on the second line. So coming down each time, just going to the halfway mark. So coming from the outside to that halfway mark, and I'll obviously do that on that side. And then we're going to do the same on the back. So from this point to the halfway mark, from this point to the halfway, and do it that way. Okay, so that's built up that. And then you're going to come from this halfway down now, so from the middle down to the point. So from the middle down to the point, from the middle down to the point. And then the same on the other side, middle to the point, middle, middle, middle. Okay. And then it's really all about shading on this one. So the shading is going to be in just on the edge and then in the full. So we're going to do on the edge and then in the full, then on the edge, then in the full. And you just would work down, edge, full. And then I don't know how effective this is going to be, but let's see. Oh, I was only supposed to do the edge of that one, so I've done the whole top box. And I'm going to just show you how you can take this then once you've got it. So edge, full, edge, full, edge, full. And then to give it a bit of fun, you would start with your little marble. So you could have a little marble there in the marble run. You could have a little marble here. You could have one there. Okay. Or you could just tangle within these shapes. So you could just have little tangles, you know, so you could have a crescent moon going on in here if you wanted. So taking it to a totally different level, you could actually just tangle. Oops, I'll get into within there, like. So just have each a different little tangle in there. So I thought that was quite fun because it's like a little marble run. I think the secret is, which I probably haven't done as well, is to actually do quite a wide. So if we're going to do this maybe down the middle of our tile today, just do quite a wide zigzag, I think, called ing, I-N-G. So it's a grid pattern. And it's called Ariman, I think I would say. Who knows how you say these things. And you start with just a little curve and a little curve on both sides. And then you have a diagonal line going across. And then you're going to come down from that. So line and then a line up to meet that. Line down, line up, line down, line up, line down, line up. Okay, so that's how that kind of builds up. Then if you flip it round, you're going to do exactly the same. Line down, line up, line down, line up, down, up, down, up. And if you imagine if you start building these up, so if I do another one in this little one here, you're going to get some really interesting shapes going on. I did my line up first. Right, flip it around, down, line up, line down. Okay, and just so see how that's building up now and creating a pattern. And then again, it's going to depend on how you shade that. And then if I do another one down here, you immediately will see how it's all going to kind of come together. Oops. Rushing ahead of myself there. Flip it round, line down, line up, line down, line up, line down, line down. So you can kind of see how you're getting this really interesting shape. And obviously with this one, it will really depend. You can obviously you could shade the middle bit to highlight things, or you could just come down and shade the one of the lines that's going one way. And I think there's a lot of ways that you could shade this, to be honest. But again, it's so that will make the center bit pop out for you. If you shaded the center, then it would make the sides pop out. So I think that kind of gives you like a sort of a twisted rope kind of shape, I think, whenever you shade that part of it. And I think if you shade the center bit, you're going to get more of a floral look. So that one, an interesting one, I thought. Okay. So as usual, let's get comfortable. So if you just let your hands just hang down by your side, give them a little shake out. And if you feel any tension in your shoulders, let's just roll those shoulders round. So little shrugs, and then let them drop. Just so you can get really nice and comfortable, because we've obviously been sitting a little bit hunched up, haven't we, while we've been doing our practice. And if you can have your feet on the floor, flat if possible, legs not crossed. And we're going to start just by taking a deep breath in and just let it go. Breathe in and out. One more. Breathe in and out. And just feel really comfortable in your seat. So your bottom's really firmly in the chair. You feel really connected, feet on the floor, and we'll start. Okay, so I am going to start with a border today. So yeah, I will. So I'm going to do my 4 dots. And I'm going to breathe in and out. And in and out. Okay. And then to start off, I think I'm going to just have my zigzag just coming right down the center of my tile. Okay, so just have that in the middle, or doesn't have to be, can be on the side if you like. Okay, and then we go from the corner, so this top corner, to the middle. Okay, so you're going from the edge to the middle, the edge to the middle, Okay, and if you can just try and just get in the zone and just focus on that mark that you're making right now. So then we're going to go from this edge to the middle, this edge to the middle. And there will be a little one kind of here. Okay. And then I'm going to go from the middle to the edge now. So middle to the edge, middle, middle, middle. And then on the opposite side, middle to the edge, middle, middle, middle. Okay, and there might be just a little bit of a one on the bottom there. Okay, and if you wanted to do a little marble, we can actually pop that in now. So just get a little marble run going. So I can pop one in there. I can pop one in here. But you put it where you feel is the right place. And then the winning marble at the bottom. Okay. Just pop one like that. So just working its way down. And then I'm going to just have turn the towel like this, and I'm going to go along and we'll just have a little border on this side. So along my border that I've drawn, I'm just going to have my dashed lines. And don't worry if they're not straight. Don't worry if they're not even. They are exactly how they're meant to be. Okay. And then I'm just going to have my little whirligig coming out. And another one on that side. And I'm just going to work along, and I'm just going to concentrate on these little whirls that I'm making. And just remember just to breathe normally, because I know we're concentrating. You just want to breathe normally as you're drawing your little ionic border. And I think I'm going to just flip it round, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to come along, and my border is a little bit wavy, so I'm just going to put the lines on the wavy border. So you can do yours straight if you want, but I'm just going to pop them on a little bit of a wave because that's absolutely fine. So come out, do a little whirligig, come out, do a little whirly, and just work your way along. Just drawing that border in. And don't worry if some are bigger than others, because even in kind of, it looks something maybe from Roman or Greek times, when they were doing frescoes, they were all individual. and they wouldn't have been exactly the same. So just let it be what it's supposed to be. Okay, and I'm only going to have them on the two sides, and mine are totally different. And as I've left so much space between this one, I might actually do a little heart in between each of those ones. But it doesn't have to be a heart, it could be a circle, it could be a square, it could be little whirligigs, whatever you want to put, and you don't have to put anything. Okay, so I've just done little hearts in that one. So on this side, I'm going to build up that in aura pattern that we had. So I'm going to have a circle and a square and a small circle and a small square and a big circle and a square. Just basically filling up that half with some shapes. And remember that you can always move your tile so that it's the most comfortable for you. And then once you've built up, if you think, actually, I'd like to have, like over here, I think I'm going to have another circle. So just come in and add that in and just build up on that. So just fill in the space until you are happy with what you have in front of you. So it's your picture. So you just make it right for you. And as always, don't be afraid to have white space. Okay, because there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay, I think I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. I know I have got some white space, so I'm going to just do a few of these little hearts, the little India. So a little whirligig, come down, and then you have your little whirl, and then we're going to do our other line. Sorry, the whirl should have been on that side, that was me rushing ahead. And then we're going to have some lines coming down and lines going across. So just put one in there, and then I'm going to do another one in this space. So just in the little sort of nook of my ing shape, I'm going to just have a little oops, and then come down and do a little whirligig. Maybe need to have a thinner nib on my pen today for this. And this time we'll go this way, so starting and then come down and do a little whirligig. So just to show you, because I'm now doing it quite small, so I start with a little whirligig, coming down, bring your other one down and do your other little twist. Okay, and then draw your lines. I'm just conscious that it's a very small space that I'm drawing it in, so it might not be easy to see what I'm doing. So a little whirl, come down, draw the other side, little whirl, and then do your lines. Okay, I just want more in this little nook. Okay. So on this side, I'm going to have a grid pattern. So I'm going to just come up and do some it's quite small. So I'm going to do a grid coming down, and it's just going to bump into that, which is absolutely fine. And then I'm going to just come across and do lines. All the way down. Okay. And so in the first one, I'm going to have 2 little curved lines, and I'm going to do my diagonal, and then I'm going to come down and up, down and up. Turn it round. I'm going to come down and up, down and up. Okay. And then do exactly the same in the next one. Little curve, diagonal, then I'm going to come down and up, down and up. Turn it round, down, up, down, up. And I'm just going to carry that through. And I imagine, actually that is an edge of a grid, we'll do that. So down, ups, down, up, down, up. And I'm just going to carry that on. Sorry, get into focus for you. So then I'm going to come down and go up to meet, down, up. And you can see as you're building this up that there's like you're getting the sort of oval pattern in the middle building up as you do more of these. So I'm going to come down and up, down, flip it round, down, up, down. Okay, and it's good to actually see as you build this up in a grid, it's good to actually see how it builds up. Add your lines and turn your tile just so that it's nice and comfortable for you to do your little down strokes and the up strokes, down, up. So you can see how that takes shape. So the other grid pattern that we can do in this as well is the little radiant one. So if you want to turn your towel around and just start on the opposite end, doing the little sunbursts, just working around. So one goes one way. So you start with your 2 dots. So I've just put a dot on the top line and a dot underneath. So a dot on the top line and a dot underneath. Okay, and then we can do all our top. Just radiate out and come round. Radiate out, touching the border and then round. And then when you turn around, you're going to radiate out from that your other dot and go around, just working around. So radiating out and just work round. Okay. So you've got these little sort of starburst patterns that are developing. And then again, I'm going to start on the top and the bottom, top and the bottom, top and the bottom, like that. And I'm just going to work my way around, just radiating out, little sunburst as you work around. And you just work within the grid shape that you've got. Okay, just a little starburst, coming around, radiating out, and then turn over and do the same again. Just, and I can assure you my lines aren't straight. And you're just working within the shape that you have. So you might not get to go all the way around, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, and then flip over, and then we're going to have a dot on the top, dot on the bottom, dot on the top, dot on the bottom, dot on the top, dot on the bottom. And we'll work our little grid from there. So and don't worry if you've obviously bumped into your other pattern, just do it up to the point that you can actually do it in. So just work with the space that you've got. Okay, so I think for me, I'm just going to come around this border edge and just draw it in with my pen. And the same on this other side, just come in and get my border drawn in like that. And I'm happy that I've got white space. I'm going to just leave the white space. If you want, if your grid comes right up to your ing shape, that's absolutely fine, but I want to do some shading on that. So I don't really want to have, I'm happy with my white space basically. So with this ing, to start with our shading, I'm going to just do a line of the pencil graphite, and then on this one I'm going to colour in. So a line, coloured in, a line, coloured in, and just working down with the opposite. So line, coloured in. Oops, done the wrong one there. Should have been that one coloured in. Not to worry. Line, coloured in, line, coloured in. It is what it is. I can always say that. There's no mistakes. So bring my turtle on and just start shading in. And as I say, with the shading, it's just all about giving some contrast. You just want to give contrast. So you want to have some white and some dark. So you can build up. That should be coloured in. That should be a line. So it's just about leaving some. I'll just shade that anyway because I've put the graphite in now. Okay, and I'm also going to come along the outside of this and just kind of come down and give a little bit of background shading as well. Just in that I'm leaving some white, but I'm just giving a little bit of depth. And I'm going to do the same on the other side, just in the little sort of dip. I'll just add a little bit of shade. And then in my in aura one, I'm going to pick some to kind of draw around. So like the bottoms of these ones, I'm going to add some pencil because I want it to pop off the page. So I'm going to just come along, and I've really added the graphite there because I want to really make it pop. So I'm just blending that out quite widely. And then I'm going to come in and do like colour in with the shade on inside as well. But again, I'm going to give some really heavy pencil to really make it pop. So some really heavy pencil in there just to make it sort of so that you're kind of falling into it. So I'll come along the edge here. And add some and just blend that out. And then you can also add a little bit of shade just around the edges of the top one if you want. Or just maybe on one side, I'll just add a little bit. Got quite a lot of graphite on my pencil. I'm going to just kind of give definition to where maybe one starts and one ends, so that you kind of are getting a definition of the shape. But as I say, as long as you leave some of the shape with white, just so that that can still sort of pop. That's the most important thing. Don't colour the whole thing. Okay. edge, blending it out. Coming down this edge and I'm just really blending out. Okay, and now it kind of gives you a sort of 3D effect because they're now with the shading, it's given it definition. And so they're not just flat on the page now. Okay. And with your little ionic, I should say, ionic, I'm just going to give a little bit of shading inside each one. So just a tiny little bit of the graphite just on the inside of those. I have to get my skinny torch one out to pull that out. So just a little bit inside. And then I'll just blend that up. So just blending that up. And you can also just give a little bit of shade along the border if you like. Okay, and then again on this side, so blend it up. A little bit of shading just on the edge there. So okay. And with the our arm this one, it's really whether you want the circles, the sort of oval shape to pop, or the lines. So you just can decide which, so you'll either shade the oval or you'll shade the lines. Just choose which one you want to be the most focal points. So I'm going to just come in and shade the diagonal lines so that the kind of oval shapes are going to pop off the page for me. I kind of think these would be nice if they were coloured a different colour. They'd probably look really nice. So I'm coming in and shading between the circles so that the circles, if you can see now, they're the most white and they're the things that are popping. And again with this side, I would just kind of shade on the a radial. I'm just going to shade in the centers of each one. So I'm going to, where the dark spot is, I'm just going to bring a little bit of shade in. So where the dark, so just in this bit here, just again so that my starburst bit is contrasted. So you're still getting, it just changes it, it just makes it, you know, draws you into a different part of the picture really. Just blend that a bit more. Okay. My little hearts are tiny, so I'd probably just go down one side of them, to be fair, because they're really small anyway, and it's not going to be. Yeah, I think I'll just highlight one side of those. I think I've probably got space. I'm just going to do little hearts in between this one because I've just that matches up. That's that. And then really, if you just hold it at arm's length, and as always, we look at it in all four directions because there isn't an up and down with our Zentangle. There's no top and bottom. So have a look and see where you've got a space, basically, that you can pop your initials. So let's have a look. Probably, actually, for me, it's going to be over here, I think. So I can just do, and you can just have your initials on, within the border. They don't have to go inside. You can just make it as part of the border. I could just have a little P and a B there, just at the edge. Or you can have it tucked in somewhere. So it's just really looking and seeing where your initials will just kind of fit in with the little piece of artwork. Okay, I really like this ing one. And then we're going to just turn the tile over and we're going to put our name. And today's date is the 2nd of July. July already. And then we're going to start with our pattern. So we had ing, and we had a radial, and Araman, and ionic border, and in the oh, and we also had in aura, didn't we? Oh my goodness, didn't realize we'd done so many in aura. So okay,